obviously we have always had consultants say they want to a role which, you know, they feel they're having more positive impact on the world. And years ago it was, you know, we looked at the not-for-profits, for instance, but they often found the processes, back office was completely clunky. They didn't have like-minded people around them, and obviously that married with a low pay packet was, you know, often led to dissatisfaction really quickly. So it's great that people have an outlet for wanting to do good and also stimulate their intellectual side, and obviously do the startup world, which is most appealing to consultants at the moment. I do believe, however, that some consultants are sort of coming from a very structured, you know, rigid, quite, you know, up and out type culture where you do this, you get promoted. They struggle with the lack of or the lack of structure, and also the ambiguity in startup world, where, you know, even a job description, you're given a job description to recruit, and then suddenly day one it's completely changed.
Yes.
What's your view on that? If there's some personalities in consulting that could do well in this area and some that don't?
Yes. Yeah, I think you're definitely right. It isn't for everyone. And it's worth acknowledging there's a ton of diversity within the kind of broad label of startups as well. So that can mean everything from like pre-funding, pre-product, pre-revenue, you know, 2 people in a garage, very early stage, through to, you know, a late stage 300, 500,000 person, still privately held company, through to like a post IPO tech company and doing like internal consulting at Google or Netflix, or, you know, there's so much diversity within the world of tech that it's really worth keeping in mind that you can probably find a better and worse fits for your like ways of working and your desires around perks and types of role within that. I think also like your skill set will apply in really different ways as well. So a consultant actually can be incredibly effective in an early stage company, because if you're a very good generalist who can pick up lots of things quickly, who can analyze and break down a problem, identify the most effective way to solve it, and then go solve it, like that's actually what you need in an early stage startup. And then, you know, at that kind of 300, 500,000 person stage, where you're starting to see that the costs of decisions go up and the reversibility of decisions goes down, that can actually be a really helpful skill set at that point in time as well. I think one thing that like a lot of consultants won't realize is that coming from a world where you're sort of the consigliere to a CEO, or you're an advisor to kind of the center of decision making in a company, that a lot of the time in startups you are not that. You know, strategy roles don't really exist in early stage startups. Like that should probably be done by the CEO or the founders, and if they're not doing it and they're outsourcing it, that generally is an issue. And then if you fall into something like an ops role or something like that, you're often seen as a cost line. You're not seen as a revenue driver. So generally the kind of most valuable talent is perceived to be like engineering and acquisition talent that creates products or sells products. So it can be a bit of an identity crisis for a lot of people, going from being, you know, considered important and told you're important to being considered much more replaceable. And feeling like you need to justify your skill set. But if I was to be like, okay, here's a set of rules, like, will you like or not like startups? Like, if any of the following things scare you, don't do it. So an unclear job description or unclear promotion path, like actually being responsible for the impact of a decision and feeling that impact, like being part of a business that fails and having to deal with that kind of public failure, having to do really direct execution. Like when I started Normal, I was doing all that customer support, all of our email marketing. I wrote all the copy on our website, like really having to get your hands dirty. And then even having to kind of, if you're motivated by impact, make really clear pragmatic decisions about how you achieve your mission, and when you're kind of making a decision for impact and when you're making a decision commercially. So I think that can be really tough as well. If any of those are unpleasant, probably not the right fit. But if you value like autonomy, working on problems that matter, continuous learning, your job changing every 6 months, and you have a pretty good risk appetite, both up and downside risk, then actually startups can be an amazing path for consultants, but it's just, it's definitely not for everyone.
No. So thank you for watching. Please subscribe to hear more amazing career advice from some of the most well-known names in strategy. You can hear the full podcast by clicking the link below.